you'll watch them over the weekend. All right, so I'm recording this. Now record. You won't see what's on the board, but always take a picture and put it there. We get this error. Props is not defined. So what do? I change props to this. Stop props. Save it. Boom, it's working again. It's an easy conversion from one component to the next component. Okay? All on board? So I'm going to stop right now and put in the thumbs up. Here. Convert color switcher app to class-based component. Okay? And click on the thumbs up when you do. I will give time. What? Okay, I'll go back here. I'm going to take the code that I have here. I'm going to get rid of this info here. I will take the component and I will slack out the code as well. So you won't be lost. The component has been slacked. It's in Slack. It's right here. You need to copy paste it. You could. I'm sorry, I just got the render. Still have to change the class. Okay? Actually, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to delete that and copy the whole thing. Here's the whole thing. So we have, okay? Color switcher app, whole component right here. You need to copy paste, you copy paste, and you'll get it. Good? Sweet. Luis, good? Good? Tommy? Working on it?
How does it know that this is referring to the index?
All right, so how does this right here?
Never mind.
Okay. Yeah.
I was just wondering.
This becomes, what does this represent here though? Like what does this represent? The class, right? The concept of this here, in this case, means the class. Anytime it sees the word this, it asks the class, like class, I don't know, what is this? And we still don't even see like some sort of prop being passed in here, right? Like where is props coming in? Before when we had the functional component, it was obvious where it was being passed in, right? We had a functional component that was like this. Function, color, switcher, app. I'm just going to abbreviate it. I'm going to put props here in that other color, right? And this was a return, right? And in the return, we could reference props dot whatever, right? And it was pretty intuitive where props was coming from, right? There was props. And so here was props. That was really, these two made sense because I saw it coming in, so I knew where to reference it. But do we see where it's coming in here? I don't really see it.
This comes from?
This is this color switcher app component. Okay? So here where I say props on the functional side is just props. On the class-based side, this represents the class. It'll like, oh, let me go up and ask the class, hey class, do you have something called props? And the class is going to be like, sure, I have something called props. I always have something called props. Sometimes there's something in props, and sometimes there's nothing in props. But I always have props. And what is props, regardless of which iteration we're using? What is props? What data type is this thing? It's an object, right? That's an object. That's an object. That's an object. Props is always an object. And later on, state is also going to be equal to an object. But it's going to be equal to an object, and we're going to see it created. You're going to see state get created. Because we have to manually do this thing. Like props is like being done under the hood, right? We just design the thing and like React's like, oh man, I got props. Like package, that's its tool.
Would you say that like the app itself needs to be stateful because you can add colors to it that needs to know like render the colors?
Yes, because of this. And I'm going to just re-emphasize that. Let me see.
But the colors can change. They either get added or removed. They don't need state.
No. These lower level things like this doesn't need to have an idea of state because it's like, I'm just give me the color. I'm like, I'm never going to change myself. I'm just going to be the color you gave me to be.
And if your app had the functionality to click on a color and change it, then they would need to change it.
Well, once again, I could pass it up here, pass the thing down. When we passed in D, what was D? It was just a single color. Is it possible that we could turn it into an object that has more key value pairs so that the actual color could have, maybe it knows its hex code, its RGB code, right? It could have 3 different variables. It could even be like, is active, is not active, right? If you clicked on it, it may just be like this, bloop, pop open, right? Expand, and if it's not active, it's just this little color that's sitting there waiting to be clicked. Any element on this page can have more than just this little static single color property. Everything can have multiple key value pairs, even a color can have. Yeah, Jeff.
So you can tell that prompts are being passed into the color switcher app, but if you go to, it's getting passed in through the index.
Through the index, right?
So this dot prompts is referring to what's being passed through on the
Index, right?
And then colors is one of the objects within the prompts object.
Yeah, it's one of the key value pairs, right? So whatever you put in here, even title got passed in. And if we were to console log it, so I'm going to go to color switcher app. Where would we console log props right now? Where would you think we could do it? Because there's also a difference between this and where you can console log. Okay, let's try it above the render. We're going to try it. All right, well, let's try this dot props. Let's just see if this works. And now I'm getting this parsing error, unexpected token, because this class is not a function. It doesn't it has its own rules that govern it. Things need to be in certain places. You just can't say, like a function, like I could just stick anything wherever I want, right? Console log here, create a variable there, create another function inside of a function. It doesn't really care, but we can't just haphazardly do whatever we wanted. There's more rules that kind of govern this thing as an object, right? Because in the end, a class is really an object, no? It's just this kind of elevated state of object, you know? It's like the president is the president, but they're just like us, right? Human beings just like us. They just happen to like have all this extra power and authority, right? Maybe I could try a better example. I don't know. You have one, share one. I don't know. But that's what I'm saying is this, in the end, is an object. And if it was an object and I created an object, could I just like console log anywhere in an object? You couldn't do that, right? So what was the next one?
After render.
After render, as in where? I'm going to cut this. Tell me what. What line should I? In here?
Yeah.
Good. Safe bet, right? Looks like it works. This is props, right? So I have to be more specific. I have so many console logs now. Like I look at this and I'm like, oh, but it's color switcher app. This is props. It's an object, and it has 2 things in it because I passed 2 things down. Right? What did I pass?
The title
and colors array, right? So I passed 2 props. It took those things. It made them into key value pairs. That's what it did. Okay? I have all these other ones. We should stop console logging at some point then, right? Because it gets annoying to see all of them. Unless I look over here. Like this clearly distinguishes where they're coming from. So this is helpful. Okay? The other thing that's helpful is this. And we didn't get into it the other day, but I know Soleil asked that you install it, right? Or walked you through installing it. You see in Developer Tools this little React here? Do you have that? You have that. Let's use it, Ralph. Use it wisely. I want to use it. If I go to it, what this shows me is my application and the components. The Elements tab shows me the rendering of HTML that I see, right? That my browser needs to see HTML. This React little tab here shows me the React structure, okay? What I can see here, if you highlight a component, you see information about the component. And look, it's telling me that the props that this component has is colors and title. I can see that. When we go ahead and add state, you'll also see something added there as state. If I expand this, here's what color switcher app, it rendered in app, and here's all the HTML, but then it also rendered this form, and if I click on form, form doesn't have any props. If I click on color list, look, color list has an array of 8 colors. If I expand that, look, I have all these color list items. Why do we need the key again? What's important about this key? What? Yeah, because React is like, I have so many things here, and you did this little looping thing where I kind of like made a Xerox copy of everything, and now I need to keep track of all these Xerox copies. And so I'm going to understand that by referencing these keys, okay? And if I click on each one, color white, color gray, color light green, right? Each one of these is really just an LI. If I expand it, it's just an LI, right? With props, okay? And we saw props got passed from all the way up here, trickle down, all the way down here to the elements that needed the specific values, right?
Please go back to the arrow.
Which one?
To the arrow.
Here? Yeah. Okay.
You said that the console log is across shows two.
Yeah, because index was passing down 2 things. Okay? We passed colors and title, and I did title to show us that props is going to be whatever we give it, and it's going to store it. I don't think we were using props anymore here for title, right? But if I wanted to change color switcher app to use the title, what would I do? JC, what would I do here? Curly brackets.
Is props title.
Correct. Right? Curly brackets are for both of these. It doesn't matter, right? Curly braces are used to enumerate what? JavaScript, right? Variables or something. You're like, I hope I get this right. Yeah. If I see even like a whisper, I'm like, what'd you say? You didn't tell me that. Awesome. So I'm back here now, right? Color switcher app, color switcher. We have this thing, and this is like, cool. This thing doesn't have state, but we're baby stepping it. I need to get to state, so I had to do the conversion first, right? I converted it, and now I'm going to add state. You ready? I know. All right. So state is added. There's a few different ways to do this. Remember how I say like React is evolving, it's this ever evolving animal? All right, so we're gonna do it this kind of the first way, because you're gonna see it in all different ways, so I want you to understand, and a lot of the homework references the old way too. So we're gonna do it like this, constructor, super, not yet, we will. You will see. You will see. We're limited right here. There's something that we still need to do. And here I'm going to say this dot state is equal to something. Because I did mention, like, state is an object, props is an object, they're all objects. Everybody's a happy object, right? What should state be? State is going to be aware of what? All of our colors, right? The colors array. So it makes sense that we should call it colors or colors array, whatever. I'm just going to call it colors. And I'm going to set it to be what? All right, can I just do, I can't just do colors here, right?
Props.
All right, anytime we reference props in a class-based component, how do we do it?
It's props, not colors.
All right, so let's try that. This.props.colors. Let's see if that works. I'm getting it. Oh, what did I do? I'm getting an error here. Cannot read property colors of undefined. Okay, that's a little strange, right? Okay. So I'm just going to show you that it could work. If I didn't do this, I want to show you that it would work if I gave it static data. We need to make one change. But just say I said, I don't know, blue. Just want to see, does this work? Right? Still works. These colors are still being pushed down via the other way. I just want you to see that it can work. We just have to make a few edits. All right? And the error and those problems are coming from this. When we say this.props.colors, well, we know that there's props.colors is being passed, but it doesn't like it. It's like, something's wrong here. And here's the wrong thing. It has to do with this constructor and super, this whole extends thing, okay? We didn't go deep into classes, right? When I showed you a class in Unit 1, what was the structure of that class? The context of that class.
Applying a name to tag.
Okay. But I give you a working example of the class. What was it? What was the one requirement for your project? Where I pretty much gave you some of the code.
Oh,
Like, here's the code. Surprise! Like, wrapped it up. I wrapped it up so nicely for you. Put it under the tree. And you were like, look. Didn't you build out your projects using something? The project section of your portfolio, where you pull data from where? And then you use what to build it? The code I gave you, which was a class. We walked through it in class. All right, once again, it's like in the Wayback Machine, right? You did it, you saw it, and you're like, I don't know what you're talking about. We created a class, and we didn't extend anything, and I didn't really need to do this construct. Extending means I inherit. So this class is saying I need to inherit some things from the base level React component. There's this base level React component, and because I want to be a class-based component, I have to inherit a bunch of things that the React component has that I do not have, okay? This constructor is a way of kind of like executing some local context here where I can define some variables. Remember, I just can't, if you're not in render, I just can't write anything here in this free empty space. It's like no man's land, right? You know, like a proton and like electrons, you know, all that free space, right? There's just free space, but nothing's happening there. You can't do anything here, okay? We're not allowed to just go here and start writing stuff. So if I want to create variables, right, inside of my thing, I have to do it up here in this thing. Like the big variable is this. State is the big one. So the fact that it can't see this, it can't see props is because props isn't being passed down to it. Super props, right? I'm looking, I want to see in that code pen that I did share, right? This Google Sheets, I want to actually see if we had the constructor. Maybe I'm just like, here it is. Oh man, take a look at this. Take a look at that. Does that look familiar? Yeah, Joe, that looks super familiar, right? Did we not use a constructor? And I passed in something to the constructor. When we call a class, it's like, how do you get something into the class? It's the same concept, like, how do I get something into a component? I pass it in as props, right? And for a functional component, it's just a parameter placeholder, right? Here's props. Yeah. When it's a class-based component, how do I get something in here? Well, I have to kind of pass it through this little constructor thing. If I want to have access to it here, I have to say, pass it in here, and then you have access to it. Okay? Next time I do this, I would probably change object to what? To props, right? All right. If I ever do this thing again, and I will, I would so create this thing as a prop to always convey what we're trying to do in React. I was hoping doing this would help you when we got to React. I don't really know. All right. So we have this. Let's do that. We're gonna jump in. We fixed it. Did we not fix it? Marie's like, I don't know what just happened. I'm not fixed. Sure? No, go ahead, hit me up. We're gonna take a break right after. I just want to go to a break, but go ahead. So super is executing its parent's context of whatever. Like super here references this parent component. And the construct that we write, well, having access here means we have to access props in here, but this thing also may need access to props itself or data because we're extending this thing. Okay? If I remove it, let's just see. If I remove it, does it break? Just curious. Did it break? It broke, right? So here it's like, I know you want to be you, but you have to call me in order for you to be you and use all the things that I have to offer you, right? So you call me, pass me all your stuff, and then you can have access to it because I'm going to return this little portion of me that you need to borrow to you, and I need that data in order for you to effectively be you. I don't know if that really helps, Jess. I feel confused. Why don't we take a 5-minute break? And I will try to confuse that because I'm not really sure if you're you or I'm you. I don't know. Okay, Jess.
Why do we need the constructor at all if props are getting passed into the route?
Because we're creating something here. We're creating a local variable in our class. And you saw how I couldn't console log here? We're not going to do like something here. We're not going to do anything outside of constructor.
But then you would change this prop later on to this state.
Yes, later.
So you wouldn't actually call prop then later.
I wouldn't do that here because our color list is passed down and I want to store it in here and we will get to that.
You're literally doing
Right.
this. I just, like, this worked without us doing anything with the constructor. I'm just wondering.
Yeah, that's because it's actually class, it's actually going to happen, but it's best practice to actually write the constructor in super and then set state as the variable pass to it or assign to state. It happens under the hood. We always like to do it this way because it's the best practice. But the constructor, I can find that in the article. I can send you.
I'm reading it, that's why.
Oh, is it like,
I'm reading an article, you're saying that, state versus stateful. It's just saying here that,
because under the hood, because it's like these classes are syntactic true. They're not true classes inside of JavaScript. So what's happening is underneath the hood, it's actually like doing all this stuff. So you don't technically need it, but it's absolutely best practice.
this would make the most sense if you were making a change to whatever the props are being passed in, right? Like if you wanted to grab the props from a higher component and then make a change to it and then pass it down, that would make sense. But it's just, I mean, yeah, I see what you're saying.
There's gotta be something else.
Yeah. If I change, if I go here, this dot state, then you pass it, we go from here to this props. And if I change it to state, then we can go here. Yeah. Then it would be great. Is there any? But like, it's not, I don't see why you need that extra step. Converting your props to state and then state. Oh, because we're updating this. Oh, okay.
See, yeah, this right here, we're just initializing it, this is like what we're initializing.
Oh, here.
Changes to it.
You
And then
struck.
we're gonna write a function to set state.
Ah, I'm gonna use that. That's a good one. I'm gonna show that.
Which is always used.
Okay. I'm gonna call that the AJ error from now on. The AJ error. Right? Take a bird's eye. We'll laugh at it as this.
Oh, there's nothing.
Just a page, Joe. Just a page. I don't really get it. It's fine. I'm sticking with it.
All right. You okay, Tom? All right. Are we at like 5 minutes already or what?
I think that's all based. It's a very social distribution. I totally needs an extra rest.
Okay. I'm good. I'm good with that. There's a lot thrown at me. I'm gonna get to more of this and then we'll get this stuff.
That's based on the resolution. Everything is possible.
So what we're doing is we're taking props. We're setting it as our space. We're getting color. So we have the validation that has state color. We then say set state. So then reset. Okay. So like reassign that. This is like reset. You know, like when you have like college and Microsoft and all this stuff. You don't have annotation. It's students that run like all that's students. They're like, that's your idea. You know, it does, it really does say
Steve, don't break anything, Steve. Don't break there. No. Steve, play nice. Steve, play nice. You can do color picker too. I'm telling you. Pull it up.
I'll leave you know.
Yes. All right, I'm gonna start. Please. All right. All right. Right? All right. All right. So I'm going to, just because I saw one or two errors, let's take a look and see where you could possibly see an error in regards to all this. So if I mistype constructor, maybe I called it constructor, I get this error message. So I only changed the constructor to a different name. You get this, right? And it's like, color switcher, super is only valid inside a class, constructor of a subclass, maybe a typo in the name constructor, or not extending another class. So here, reading through the full, like when I was solving this, I didn't read through the full thing. I was like, I don't really know why that's happening. Let's take a look here. I'm like, but reading through it now that I took the time to see it, I mean, we fixed it. I could see now it's kind of telling you what it is, right? So misspelling it will force that error. Because what I saw, you know, helping several people just work on small things is like there's a lot of typos. If you create it with an uppercase C, but you export it with a lowercase c, breaks, right? So if you import this, but whatever was, like, things can break, just really small syntactic things that throw you back 20 minutes, frustration level increases, and I don't want that. Okay, you don't want it, I don't want it, nobody wants it, okay? So, just back to this constructor, its purpose is to allow us to give to our class some values, just like I use the constructor here in this card class to give a title, image, and description to this card. It was done as an object, but if I change this to props, you would see, right? How do I get data into this? Well, I have to pass it in. When I pass it in, the constructor's like, I take all things that are passed in, they go through me first, we can define these things, and then they can be referenced later on up here. Define them here, and then you can reference them, right? That's the ultimate goal. I didn't want to reference these things down here as this, you know, or as object.title. I wanted it to reference them as this.title. So I created this.title is equal to that, okay? Once again, could have been written another way without any of this, but I did it like that for a reason, to convey what we're doing here. Here. Got it? You got it. Do we understand like what the class is doing and how we define state? Not that we've used it yet, just that we define it, right? Okay. And just before we left, you know, just made a point, like, hey, we have to pass it down, right? We have this state, it's got the colors. There's no reason now to be passing down props. We should be passing down state, because this thing will ultimately change to include something. So I'm going to say this dot state dot colors. Just make sure it doesn't break. Oh, how can color switch wrap? I just want to make sure nothing broke. Nothing broke. All I did was this. For the colors, the color list component, instead of this dot props dot colors, I changed it to state. So now we're passing state. Okay? Cool? Now I did mention, like, changes to state trigger a re-render. This is the mechanism upon which we use to govern whether the app needs to add update or remove information. Because that's what this is, right? If state controls all the information, I can add a color, I can remove a color, I can change a color, and by doing that, you've changed the state of the application. And so then the application has to be like, something's changed, I need to like re-render, send all the information down to these, and they will make a decision whether the things that they have need to be updated or not. Right? That's what's gonna happen. I'm gonna pass it down. If I add a color, color list is gonna be like, gotta spin off a bunch of colors, da, 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 da. And then they get it and like, oh, I'm the one that changed, so I'm the one that updates in the DOM. I'm the only one that updates. Now, the fact that we have this, if I go back here in React, you see now I have state, right? I have state. I mean, props was still being passed, but now I've stored data from here into here. This isn't gonna, that's not gonna change because I'm still getting data passed down to me. I'm just taking that data and storing it in state so that when my state changes or color's added, I can like do something with that color, okay? That's what's happening. Cool? So, kind of like on Tuesday, what I think I did is we built a lot of stuff and I was like, go ahead and build the thing, and like a lot of people got lost in building the thing, the to-do list all on your own. What I'd like you to do is go to the to-do list and update the app component to be a what? Class-based component, and pass down state here. Yeah.
So on the lab that we were doing yesterday.
Yeah. The Gorilla one?
I
think a few.
The receipt one.
The Gorilla receipts, yeah.
Yeah.
Sure.
Then did all that, right?
Sure.
And then I wanted to set a variable when I was doing the workbook.
Okay.
So I was like, oh, okay, I'll put it in the constructor section, and I tried to do let.
Oh yeah, you can.
And then I was like, oh, let me just try it. And I was like, oh, let me just put this in front of it, and it worked. Was that like, is that?
Yes, this becomes, well, I have to take a look at your code. So if you push it up and you shoot me it, I'll open it up and we can take a look at it.
But is this the new way to like declare a variable?
Yes, here it is the new way inside of our color list. Let me just get rid of some of these things here. Yeah. Yes, if we wanted to create a new variable, I could say this dot test is equal to test. Yeah, just like in this particular example, remember how I defined this was equal to that? This is the same construct. It's the same thing that React is doing. If you want to set a variable, you have to do it here in the constructor, and you have to do it as this, right? Okay. See that? It did help after all. It did.
No, I'm trying to work with me.
Okay. All right. So I'm going to put in the Slack channel. You know what you're doing. Okay. Somewhat know what you're doing, but I'm going to put here, click here when the to do, what did I call this thing here? All right. Mine is called app. I just called it app here when I did to do. You called it something different. That's cool too. No, you have the one that you worked on the other day, the to-do list, right? Your to-do list should be inside of the week 04 day 02 folder. Yeah, that's the one I want you to work with. So I kind of lost here what I was doing, all right? Click here when your top level app component in the to-do app has been converted into a class-based component. There we go. Thumbs up. Boom. Just click yes, because it's probably asking you to. Yeah. If it asks you, if you do try to spin up the second one, like obviously I'm going to do it because I want to walk everyone through doing it too. So, oh, you want a new tab? Because if I open a new tab, if I do Command T, opens up a new tab. And then I can go to instructor examples, to-do list app, and then just do npm start here, and it just asks me to spin up another port. Just say yes. That's it, and then it'll spin up another port. Okay. Yeah, Jess, I just saw what you sent. I wouldn't do it there. I would have done that inside of the render method. Yeah. I would have done it inside the render method because it's really only going to be used inside of the render method. You're just not going to see what you just did there, which is fine and it works. You're not going to see that being done in the constructor. The constructor is more like store the variables, but if you ever needed to like mutate or do something, do it outside of that. It's not the place to run code, it's the place to define variables. So I'm going to show you how that's done. We're going to convert everything into a class base, so you'll see it done. Exactly. It's the only place that we can do. We can't do it in return because return does this. We can't necessarily do it outside of render. We can and we will. There's so many ways to do it, but for right now, that's great. Don't do stuff there. It's not the place to do processing of information. Filtering, mapping, like that's not the place to do it. Okay? Sweet. Good.
No, not like that.
Yeah.
Like I can map,
Yeah.
Then like do this with unfamiliar information.
Yeah. But you know what it becomes? It just becomes the reapplication of the same thing. That's all it is. There was a time when I taught this, when I learned React and I had to teach it. I didn't know everything. So I had to like look at stuff, to type stuff out. You do it enough times, it just becomes like, we're going to do the thing in 5 different ways, watch. Right? I wouldn't do it in 5 different ways, but I can, and I only know how to do that because I have taught it 5 different ways.
Yeah. I think I need to do it with like 5 different steps.
Yeah. So I mean, you have Gorilla Receipts, right? You can go to Gorilla Receipts and maybe do it with Gorilla.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, you can do whatever. Yeah. You can spin up. Yeah.
Like have a different line.
I mean, I do have a bunch of stuff, but you can always do it like on the Long Island Railroad schedule thing. You can pass the data, store it. How would you structure it out? Like, there's no solution for that because I never turned that into React. It was just a Unit 1 mock-up thing. So you could turn it into something where we like get live data from the Long Island Railroad and like see the thing up there. It's possible to do that. All right. 37. All right. Give a few more minutes. We got 6 clicks so far. So We did it. If you did the Gorilla receipts, can someone just Slack me your repo? I just want to see what solution you did. Maybe I can suggest some things. If you finish this, I could be like, go to Gorilla receipts and do this thing. I prefer you keep working on something with React. So. Oh, you just sent it to me? Okay.
Changing the state, it's working, it's speaking. It's
Okay.
beautiful. Now, when it comes to the Gorilla app, of course.
Did you send it to me? Because I haven't seen anything
No,
here.
because I wanted to see
Oh,
the
okay.
context. Because I'm not sure if this would work. But
Sure.
anyway, one of the ways that I try to keep track of receipt, being received, which one, I mean, obviously, it's much clearer now that
Sure.
you're saying.
Yeah, so this, right, because you're in JSX, receipt here is the element in the array, so you just enumerate it.
But I think the further up the.
Oh, this, yeah.
because-
Here you're importing food, so you
Right.
can reference it because you're importing it at the global scope.
And there was something about the receipts, because I think the plural, obviously this is an element, so that's why
Yeah.
it's singular,
It's a
we're
singular.
still mapping over the collective.
Yep.
right?
Mhm.
Yeah, I went so far as to have 3 receipts and you know,
Okay.
basically putting receipt and receipt 1, receipt 2,
Sure.
receipt 3 in there. But I'm sure that there's an even
We'll
more.
send it. Shoot me your code and I'll take a look and I'll see. All right, I'm going to go through that solution, right? There's a to-do list app. Here it is. I'm going to change this from a functional component. I called it app. Maybe you called it to-do list app. I'm going to call class app, right? Get rid of the props. Extends React dot component, right? Can't console log in here anymore. That's going to break it. We learned that earlier. We need to have a render method, right? So I'm just going to get my render going first, right? I'm baby stepping this, right? I'm going to make sure that this thing works just like that. Let me see if it should work. React extends React. This changes to this. Before I add the constructor, let's just make sure that the thing didn't work, huh? That's weird. There we go, right? Making a few changes. Renamed it, added render, didn't touch that. Just want to make sure that the thing works. Don't try to do too many things at once. Now that I know that it's working, it's in this working state, I'll then say, hey, all right, maybe now it's a good time to add the constructor, right? Super, I'm going to add props in just a minute, right? Maybe it's a good time, I'll use this. All right, I'm going to say props here, props there. This dot state is equal to this dot props dot to dos. Once again, just making sure it didn't, this dot state. No, it looks like I did. So then, this dot state is equal to this dot.
To do colon this dot props dot.
Oh yeah, so that's why, right? This dot to dos is equal to is.
You just say.
You could just say to dos. Well, you can't just say to dos because this always has to have this before it, and this dot props dot to do. So this is how we would reference it. I don't think we can.
Mine's not wrong, yeah.
Well, let me see. So what am I doing wrong here?
You don't need the this.
Yeah, you just have.
Oh, that's right. Oh, this is outside of the object. Got it. Yeah. Do this a million times and still, it's easy to get confused, right? So you're saying if I just, if I got rid of this and I just put one single word to use, is that it? No. Just to this. Just like it's working.
Yeah.
Yeah. I feel like it's working. All right. Easy enough, right? And then just down here, we just do this dot state. We're passing down state. Easy enough. State's being passed down. Cool? Cool. Back to color switcher app. Color switcher app. All right. Yeah.
So
What's up?
I passed props through to do this first, and it works, and then I tried to see work also. So
Yeah. For these subcomponents here?
yeah.
Yeah, this is going to work because it still has access to props.
Oh, okay.
The reason why we're creating a state is because this is the reason why. Form is going to collect data. The form is going to send it up to color switcher app. Color switcher app is going to have state. You're going to push the thing into state. Changing state does what?
Triggers render.
Yes, triggers a re-render. Okay. So as I start to color code these, I'm going to probably do maybe another color to kind of convey that this is a stateful component. Right? So when I look at the diagram, not only can I just tell the component hierarchical structure, I can tell from the colors what has what. So green will always be state, these class-based component. Okay? Blue right now will just be a functional component. Some things are meant to like process information, and others are more just for the view, for the presentation of the data. Okay, presentation-based elements, like a functional component, are just meant to kind of like give you the HTML. That's really what they are. But a class-based component is meant to like do a little bit of thinking, keep track of state, do a few other things that need to get done within the application, right? Because an application might need to think a bit about stuff. Hey, you're looking for something in an array? Let me like loop over the array. Let me find the thing. Let me calculate the thing. Cool, I did it all. Update state. You then see it
So in
at the
this-
lower level.
This very specific instance, you could switch state for props and it would not affect the output.
Not yet.
It's not yet.
But if we updated state,
Then-
you would never see the new color. If I add a color here and I update state, but we're only still passing this dot props dot colors,
Okay.
you'll never see, it would never be updated, right? It's because state is being passed out. State has changed. We pushed something into the array, we removed it, passed it down, right? So the next place that we kind of really have to like see where state is happening. Now, I'm going to do this. You don't do this. Don't do what I'm doing right now. Just watch what I'm doing because I really want to convey what state's doing. And this is going to be part of another lecture. Okay, when we make API calls, this thing is going to get done. So there are some, I'm doing this with the intent of updating state, just to show you what happens, okay? So I am going to add another component did mount, okay? Don't do it. Please don't do it. Component did mount is a special method that React has, like render, right? We need render for this, right? Just like functional components need return, that's like a requirement. Class-based components require render. Without render, it's broken. It's like I have a car and I need wheels to drive. Without wheels, I don't go anywhere. It's the same thing. So I'm going to do this. I'm going to do a set time out. Right? All right. I'm going to set this thing. I'm going to set it to run like in a second. And I'm going to do this. Once again, just introducing it. This dot set state. And I'm going to say, actually here, I'm going to push a color into, just thinking the best way to do this. This dot set state, you know, colors is this dot, we don't want to mutate state. So I'm going to do this. Once again, this the reason why I'm not having you do this is because there's a few things that I have to do and I don't want to have to explain everything. I just want to get to the point of what we're doing and then we will apply it someplace else. This is not how we're going to do it. Colors is prev state dot colors dot push a color, right? Let's do, I don't know, what's a pretty color? Yellow. I don't think we've used yellow. I would do other colors too. Let me see. Let me go back here. Oh, is it not doing set timeout? Set timeout is not lowercase o. Yeah, ayo. What happened now? What I do here? This, oh, because it's, I didn't, this is all I changed, right?
Yellow needs to be changed.
Let me do, oh, hold on. I'm gonna get rid of this just to see, once again. If it works, sweet. All right, I'm gonna go down here. I'm gonna go back here. I'm gonna do this one more time just to see. Set time out, this dot state. Oh, I think I know what's happening. It's really, I'm looking here, just for the sake of errors. You look here immediately, right, because that's the error. But this error is the result of this error. They're built on top of each other. Like this is like, I don't really know how to use this here in this thing. Like, I don't know what the hell you're doing. And so it breaks inside of this set timeout here, okay? So it's not working here. And so everything else that depended on getting things is broken because that component is broken, okay? So this isn't working, this set timeout, because it doesn't understand this at this point in time, okay? You know, we need to do this. I'm just thinking how I do this inside of here again. Isn't it, remember? Huh? No, it just doesn't understand this. So, just give me 1 second. No, does not. Hold on 1 second. There's this Moo tracker that also does it. I'm just going to see how they do set state there, because I forgot. Moo this set state, super constructor set state. Oh no, this one does it by clicking on stuff, so that's not going to do it. So let me see how we resolve this, because this is fat arrow, and it's. All right, I'm just going to do this. I'm going to get rid of set timeout because I can't. All right. I'm going to do this. I'm going to go back to our app, and it's still broken. This stuff comes up fat. It's still saying this is not it. So component didn't mount. Let's have an extra parens here. Concatenate yellow. Well, I'm pushing into colors. Let me see. It's coming in. The props. Okay. So you're saying take a look at props here. Let's see, because it's broken. So this not set state previous state is equal to this. Just tell me slowly. Just say it. Yeah. No. Yeah. Oh, this colors dot 10, right?
Yeah, but the reason why is what's the output? So guys, question for class, what's the output of doing dot push gray?
Oh, the new,
The new lane, exactly.
That's it. So I have to do it up here. Let's say and I'm just gonna say new array is equal to, we can't do it up here. I thought we were able to do this.
Yeah, we can. So, okay. Right
Yeah.
now, we're addressing the state within a passive terms.
Yep.
This, instead of doing that, return object colors date dot colors, then do the push on the line.
So you're saying just do this. So I think I'm going to try this. Let new colors is equal to state dot. Oh, I see. Here we go. What's that?
Yeah, just like reference the state as just not state dot
Colors.
and then we go then pushing colors from there, so that it has context of what this is from the.
Yes. So let's try this. This is still going to equal 10 again, right?
So
I almost feel like I'm going to pull out of this. Like it never happened. Never happened. I'm going to get it to work. I'm just not going to get it to work now. I'm going to jump into the form. Let me just jump into the form. Trust me, I can get it to work, I promise. Just not right now. I don't want to spend any time doing that. So let's go ahead and add something or work the form, because now we're going to actually see state here in the form too. Okay? I'm going to have to update my diagram here to turn this into a class-based component. Okay? And there's going to be a reason for that. Okay? So I'm going to go to my form. So here's my form. In my form, I'm going to say class form extends React dot component and render, and I'm going to put everything in here, over here. Okay. I'm going to create that constructor props super props. Okay, and I just want to make sure that it's working. Like I didn't break it. Let me go back. Okay, that's the form. I will slack it out. Okay. I just slacked it out so you have it. Okay, good? You good? All right. So the reason why our form needs to have state is because we need to capture data, right? And that data needs to be stored someplace. And the form is kind of like, you know, you're going to capture data, shouldn't I be responsible for the data that's captured, right? So we want to enable this form the ability to capture the information that we're going to type in here, okay? So in order to do that, let's open this up real quick. In here, we want to have a place to like store the data that's captured, correct? Okay, so let me do this dot state is equal to, and we're going to make this equal to something. I'm going to say value. I'm going to set it to an empty value, right? Remember when we captured it in JavaScript, it was like e.value.target, or e.target.value, right? e.target.value. Now we have to kind of walk that same route, where when they submit something, we have to do something, okay? All right. In order to submit, we're kind of walking down this road here as well, right? You want to submit something, what does that require? An event, right? Because I have this thing right here, that's going to require some sort of event that needs to capture our input, okay? So how do we call an event here, and like what is an event that we can call? Okay. We know that we can't just write anything that we feel like writing here in any way, shape, or form, but we can add methods. Like, remember when I added the component amount? I did an error until what I did was wrong, all right? And that's well recorded. I'm gonna edit that later and just jump right to where everything worked. Like, look, it'll be up later. And it'll be like, look, it's amazing. So I'm gonna put a new method called handle click. This is a method, handle click is a method. There's different ways to write this. And I'm going to write it like this. And we're going to have to do something later on also. Okay? So I just, for the sake of it, I just want to console log, clicked, form submitted maybe. I don't know. We'll just do form submitted, click, whatever. This is just to make sure that the thing works. Okay? I need to add this as a click, right? How'd you do that in JavaScript? What was the JavaScript way of doing that? Grab the button, add an event listener, click, call back, do the thing, right? Something that we never really did and you really don't do quite often is when you first learn about click events. So if I was to just do like click event JavaScript, right? I'm going to go to W3 Schools. I'm just going to show you the most basic way that they show it to you is, are they doing it in the browser? I was looking for them to do it in the HTML. So of course, when I want them to do it, here we go. Event, click event, inline. Yeah, it's on click, and I'm just looking for inline event handlers. What I want you to see is that it does occur outside of here. I'm just trying to find the click me do something. Now, I know, this is not the best way. I'm trying to look for see this on mouse down? That's an event, that's a JavaScript event, right? This on mouse down, on click, this is what I'm looking for. This is inline, here's the element, and I have an on click. And we never wrote it like this, right? That's inline styles, and you don't write inline styles when you were doing JavaScript earlier, right? You grabbed the element, you added the click. You never went in here and added a style directly here. You never added JavaScript directly in your HTML. You didn't do that. You did it all in the JavaScript file, right? So here, in our form, we are going to kind of go back to that way that we never did before. And here's the button, right? So here's the action. I can do a couple of events here. So I'm going to say, here on the button, I'm going to go to the next line on the button, right? I'm going to add a, not a property, but I'm going to add an attribute. Yeah. Yeah, it's going inside because it's going to be kind of like an attribute. And this thing is going to be called on click, what it's called. And it's going to equal to some sort of JavaScript. Okay? And I need to call this dot handle click. So this, and what you're going to see in React when you have events that are triggered, you always kind of precede them with handle because they're handlers. They handle events. And so when you're looking through React code, you can see a lot of the word handle and then the name of the event that it's handling. Handle click, handle submit, handle mouse over. That's just how we write it in React. Okay? So that means if button is clicked, this should work, no? So let me go back here. I'm going to clear out my console, click on the button. Oh man, it refreshed. All right, I'm going to try this one more time. And it refreshed. Huh, why does a form refresh itself? It's the default behavior, right? So already we have the idea that it's performing some sort of default behavior, right? How do we prevent that default behavior? Prevent default, right? Okay. I mean, I added the on click to the submit and it's kind of doing that, right? On click and it's like doing the thing, right? How would we do that? How would I pass in the event from here to here? I guess the question is, do we even have access to the event? Right? So I'm just going to do this. I'm going to see if I have access to the event. And look, it won't let me do that. Unexpected use of event, no restricted globals. I just can't. In normal JavaScript, we could have accessed event. It's like being passed under the hood, and like we could have access. We can't do this anymore. Okay? It's not going to allow us to do that. So if I want to access something inside of here, how do I pass in the event? That's the question, right? How do I pass anything into like a method or a function? So it's a parameter. So why don't I just put the single letter E there? Just want to put the single letter E. We could type event the whole word. You're going to see it represented as like E, EVE or EV. Like not everybody wants to do event as the full thing. If you get used to like an event, it's going to take in an event. So let me see if this works. Comma E. Let's see, does that work? All right, so this. All right. Well, console log form. If I do this really quick, still we're not going to see anything, right? So we need to do. I'm going to see if we can do this. E dot prevent default. Right? Let's see if this works. I'm not sure this is going to work. Did it work? Did the form refresh? I'm going to get rid of this. I'm going to get rid of all my stuff in here. I'm going to click on submit. Form submitted. Now I console log E and I got class. So it's telling me like, this is the event, right? It's like this thing, bubbles, the type of event, right?
Where did you put the default at which E?
Right here.
Oh, okay.
But we prevented it from doing its thing, right? So we added this one single on-click event. This isn't going to be the actual, well, we could add here a click, we could add a form submit, either one is going to work. Clicking on something triggers the event, right? Triggers a form to be submitted. What's the other way that we could have restructured this? Instead of calling it on click, we could have called it what? What do you think? So there's a couple of type of events, right? One event is on click. That's just a click event. If it's a form, it would probably be what? On submit, right? But submit wouldn't be put on a button. It would be put on the form. You wouldn't put it on a button, right? Just showing you like the basic thing. Clicking on something does this thing. That's all we needed to do, okay? And it kicked off this handle click method. That's really it. At this point in time, nothing's really happened here. Okay, so what if, you know, we had value here, right? We need to somehow, when we click on this thing and this thing executes, to get the input value from here and put it here, right? Is that the ultimate goal? It's a form. Form grabs information and then we do something with that information, right? Okay. So I wonder if I did this. If I did e.target.value. I wonder if that's going to work. In order for this to work, I have to type in something like color, like red. Let me see if this works. Form submitted, but it's not giving me e.target.value. Okay. And this is just a click event. And so perhaps the click event itself isn't enough to get the target.value. We may need to do something else in order to get that value, or change the event itself from a click event to another type of event. Let me see what we're changing that to. I think it's the handle click, right? Handle change. One second. Okay. So handle click does this. We could click something. But this isn't enough for me to like grab this, because is this the target? Like the target, does it have like anything? It's just a button, right? I mean, it does have a value, but this is not going to be enough for us to execute the thing, okay? What I want to do is when it is clicked, right, or when something is typed, I want to capture that. So I'm going to go here and I'm going to add another event to the input. I'm just going to go to the input. I'm going to do this. Once again, as you add multiple key value pairs, like multiple properties, you're going to split them on separate lines like this, okay? So I'm going to call this another type of event. So you have on click, on submit, and I'm going to say on change, okay? So this event is going to be on change, and this one is going to handle what? What should it execute? If we're following the context, I need to create it, but if I was going to call or create a method, what should that method be? This dot what? Well, what did we call? This is an on change and this is an on click. I named this handle click, handle change, right? Handle change. It doesn't exist yet. Which means what? We have to create this handle change, right? So I'm just going to go here and say handle change, pass an E, and do this. Okay? Move this back just a little bit. And in here, I'm going to console log, and say this is handle change, and say e.target.value. So once again, this e.target.value did absolutely nothing because the button doesn't have like the value, right, to capture. But an input has a value, right? So if I do this, watch what happens. Look at what happens in the terminal. So what's happening? Yeah, every time you change this, it captures what character sets you put in, right? Every time I type something, it then grabs a thing, shows me the thing. No matter how many characters I type, it's going to run the event every time I type in something. Correct? Sweet. If I capture everything, and handle click is meant to update state or this. So this handle click here should do what? That should be the question. So we know how to pass something. What should we do once the user submits? And just think to yourself, just in general. I'm not asking you to like work out the like logistics and logic of this, but I type in a color and I submit it. What happens? Exactly. So that information was like the color that I grabbed, red, lives here, and at some point in time, I need to get it up here, right? Okay. Just keep that in mind because that's what click is going to be used for later. Click is going to be used to do something called lifting state. Okay? This will lift the value and give it the color switcher out. By lifting it in here, we update state with that new color, and that will trigger this thing down. Okay? Keep that in mind. We're still got to capture and deal with this. Whatever the user types in here, we still need to deal with that value. Okay? So in here, we want to use the this.setState method, because this is how we update state, okay? The following method is used to update state, okay? Here it is. This.set, try to run this before inside of that set interval, kind of broke. I don't want to talk about that ever again. The value is event, well, I'm sorry, the value is e.target.value. This will update state. We're making a change to state. Every time we type in it, we're going to be updating state. And then state will store that value here, okay? Now let's just take a look and see what happens if I do this. Let me clear out all my errors now. Oh, this got state, so I'm getting this error that it can't read property of set state, that this here, this thing here is undefined. It doesn't know how to use it.
Because you actually, two forward slashes.
Oh no, because you can do whatever you want inside of this method. This isn't JSX. Inside of a method, we could do whatever. The error that's happening here has to deal with inside handle change. There's a state of like, it knows about itself, right? All right. Inside of handle change is like, I know about me and I have my own context of this. Like if you ask me about this, I have my own version of this, which is not this other version of this that exists outside of me. Like, remember the functions when we did recursion? Each little function had its own context of what it was responsible for. This also has its own little context of what it's responsible for. Writing it like this breaks this. We can't reference this inside of it the way this code is written right now. There's like 3 different ways to fix this. I'm going to show you just kind of the easiest way right now. Like I said, there's multiple ways to do this. Instead of doing this handle change method, writing it like this, I'm just going to make a few subtle changes. I'm going to turn it into a fat arrow. Now I'm going to try it. And it works. Okay? Why does it work?
I think I read that with arrow functions, this can't reach outside it. It's like state contained. It's pointing to inside.
I feel like that's me trying to do the set timeout. Actually, it's kind of something like that.
Well, the handle change turns red, which makes it seem like it belongs to the class now.
Okay. Something like that, right? But what's the difference between a function or a method, right? Because this is really like a function method, conceptually the same, and a fat arrow. All right. It has to do, obviously, it has to do with this, right? This is how it works. Okay? Nothing's broken. A fat arrow cannot have its own context of this. If ever this is referenced inside a fat arrow, it leaves its current scope and it goes up and it's like, hey, who's this? Somebody just triggered this. That doesn't happen inside of here in a method. The method's like, this belongs to me. And I don't have a method called set state, so I don't know, like, what do you want me to do? Like, you're calling something that I can't do. But when we do it like this, setting it as a fat arrow, then we now have access to this, okay? Because the minute we reference this, it goes up to the constructor and like, hey, constructor, do you have some method called set state? And it's like, sure, I got a method called set state. Let's execute that. Okay. Now, we know that when we call this down here, it kind of worked, right? Like this worked here, right? Because render under the hood is somehow doing this little binding here, right? If this is a required method and we extended React, chances are that React's like, hey, I already pre-programmed render to know about this. Like, I've already done that work for you. You don't have to write it any weird way or different way. I've already done that kind of binding to this concept under the hood. It did it for us because render is a required thing, right? Can't write a class-based function without render. This is required. And if it's required and we're inheriting from React, React is like, I took care of the business for you. You don't have to do this, okay? There's multiple ways of writing this. And I did throw out the concept of binding, like this needs to kind of be bound to something. There's at least a secondary way to write this. If I transfer this back, so I'm just gonna take this. I want to see, can you comment to that? I'm just going to do this one thing and then we'll go to lunch. I'm going to leave this one way. That was the first way. And this is the easiest way to do it. This requires that you just write it like this. If I go back to the other way, where handle change is a method, right? Once again, that's going to break. If I do this, it breaks, right? I could write this in a different way too, using, if I wanted this to bleed out, what would I use? What bleeds out? Fat arrow. If I used fat arrow here, pass in E, and I call E here, because the concept of this bleeds out, this should work now too. Oh no, what happened? It's not handle click.
Oh, you're trying to do the intro.
What's that?
If you apply source to the button, to the click event.
Oh, that's not where I'm doing it. Yeah, you're absolutely right. So let me go back. They applied it to the wrong place. So I'm doing it here. Okay, I'm going to put E there. I'm going to call the thing because I still have to pass E into handle change now. So I'm going to pass in E here. Let's see if this works. What the heck? Did I do something wrong? What's that? Oh, no. Oh, shit, you're right. Yeah, yeah. So, okay. Yeah, I didn't see that happen. All right, so I'm going to get rid of this. R, ED. Does it work? Like, it's the last little victory before we go to lunch. You're like, yes, right, Josh, it's freaking awesome. What I'm going to try to show you is like, there's even a third way to do it. I just don't want to go down like multiple rabbit holes to be like, oh my God, he's using this 3 ways. I don't want you to do this. There's times when you need to do this. I'm going to be honest. There's times when we want to pass something in. We don't need to do that right now. We can do it the other way. We can get e.target.value. That's the way I would like to proceed. I don't want this to be like that. I want it to be this dot handle click. Okay? I'm going to get rid of this. I'm not doing it this way. I'm going to do it this way. Okay? And on that note, we're going to go to lunch. Let's go to lunch. What's that? Yeah. I'm going to push this up too. All right. It's 12:30. It's a lot of React. Is it too much? I just feel like I'm looking at all the faces and it's like, oh my God. It's like, that's what I thought props was. What? Sure. What's that? Okay. Lunchtime. Okay. That's how I feel.
was super following you, and then I think instead of putting it somewhere else, I put it in render that the E handle change. Where did you
Yeah,
put
that was
That-
tied to this,
Oh,
that was tied to this function. I went back
Okay.
to the old way.
you went back, okay.
Okay, so that means you have to change it back to this
Right,
construct.
yeah.
Right?
Well, you're gonna select that,
Yep, I will select this out.
This is one video that's.
Yes, I'm gonna watch it too. I gotta see where I went awry here. I'm gonna pause recording.